General Hospital spoilers reveal that one of the pressures Sonny is facing after Kristina's crime is exposed comes from the Port Charles community, where he has built his reputation based on a strict moral code despite operating outside the law. The fact that his daughter deliberately sabotaged a car, causing a serious accident that nearly took Rick and Elizabeth's lives, has sparked outrage not only from the victims but from the entire town. Sonny, who has always prided himself on protecting the innocent and keeping conflicts within the family, is now facing accusatory looks from those who once respected him. Particularly bitter is the reaction from Elizabeth, who had trusted Sonny for years and now has to watch Rick, the man she was slowly rebuilding a relationship with, suffer in the hospital bed because of his daughter's actions. This pressure is compounded when some of Sonny's business allies begin questioning his ability to control his family. If he can't control his own daughter, can they trust him with business deals? This has pushed Sonny into an unimaginable dilemma. He must choose between protecting Kristina, as any father instinctively would, or forcing her to take responsibility in order to maintain the respect and reputation he has worked so hard to build. However, as one of the emerging storylines unfolds, this is creating a surprising turn that few could predict. Instead of reacting with his usual fury or using his power to protect his daughter at any cost, Sonny has started showing a completely different response, a quiet, painful acceptance that Kristina must face the consequences of her actions. This adjustment in Sonny's character does not come from weakness but from a profound realization that the very way he has protected his children in the past, shielding them from the consequences of their actions, might have contributed to Kristina's behavior. In private conversations with Jason, Sonny has expressed his fear that the Corinthos bloodline, with all the anger and impulsiveness it carries, is now manifesting in Kristina in its worst form. And perhaps it's time to take a different approach with his family. The real shock comes when Sonny publicly declares that he will not intervene in the legal process against Kristina. This statement, made during a tense family meeting with Carly, Jason, Michael, and Dante present, shocks everyone in the room. Kristina, who had expected protection from her father, collapses in tears when she realizes that this time, there will be no escape, no way to avoid the consequences. This decision not only marks a turning point in Sonny's relationship with his daughter but also within the entire power structure of the Corinthos family. It is painfully clear that Sonny is faltering, and the manner in which this is unfolding is confirming it in the most excruciating way. Right after the family meeting, when everyone has left, Sonny is struck by a severe chest pain. Alone in his office, with no one to call for help, he collapses to the floor, still clutching a family photo in his hand. This image, the most powerful man in Port Charles lying motionless on the floor, struck down not by an enemy but by his own weakening heart, serves as a strong metaphor for the cost of power and the difficult decisions Sonny has made. When Jason discovers Sonny and urgently calls for an ambulance, everyone realizes that the Corinthos Empire may be nearing a new era, one that may not have Sonny at the helm. And while doctors fight to save Sonny's life, Kristina must face a brutal reality, that her actions may have contributed to pushing her father to the brink of death, creating a tragic cycle no one could have predicted when all of this started. Lucky is the one who holds the secret regarding the new madness Kristina has created, a burden of knowledge that weighs heavily on him with every passing moment. Standing in the shadows of Port Charles Harbor, Lucky unknowingly witnessed Kristina cut the brake lines of the fateful car and overheard her hateful whispers about wanting Ava to pay. The event unfolded in mere minutes, but it was enough for Lucky to understand the full story, the rage Kristina felt after losing her unborn child, the misplaced blame on Ava, and the impulsive action that could destroy multiple lives. But instead of immediately reporting it to the police, Lucky chose to remain silent, a complex decision shaped by many factors: his loyalty to the Spencer Corinthos family, his long-standing relationship with Sonny, and perhaps most importantly, the fear that revealing the truth could trigger a chain of events no one could control. This adjustment to the ongoing madness is reflected in how Lucky must constantly alter his explanations about what he knows, particularly with Elizabeth, who almost lost her life in the accident. Every time Elizabeth mentions the incident, every time she shares her fear that someone deliberately targeted her and Rick, Lucky must adjust his story. adding vague details to cover the truth while still maintaining an air of sincerity. This adjustment isn't just in his words, but also in his actions, the way he avoids certain topics, redirects conversations, and especially how he begins to distance himself from Kristina, unable to face her without feeling the weight of the secret he's carrying. The new obsession growing in Lucky is the fear that his silence is indirectly protecting Kristina, allowing her to cause even more harm. Each night, in disturbed dreams, Lucky sees Kristina continuing her destructive path, targeting new victims with increasingly dangerous methods. This obsession grows stronger as Lucky begins to monitor Kristina from afar, observing her actions and trying to ensure that she isn't planning her next act of revenge. This has pushed Lucky into a strange position, both the protector of Kristina's secret and the secret observer of her, an internal conflict that is becoming harder and harder for him to reconcile. But as one of the pressures from Ava and Molly starts to become unbearable for Sonny, the situation is turning in an uncontrollable direction. Ava, with her never-ending thirst for revenge, has begun gathering her own evidence about the accident, hiring a private investigator and using her resources to gradually narrow the circle of suspicion. Meanwhile, Molly, as a lawyer and Rick's daughter, is conducting her own legal investigation, using her professional skills to review police reports and analyze evidence from the scene. The combination of these two efforts is creating increasing pressure on Sonny, who is now facing more direct questions and more specific accusations. The pressure reaches its peak during a tense confrontation at the hospital, where Molly publicly accuses the Corinthos family of being behind the accident, with Ava standing beside her to fuel the allegations. Sonny, weakened by his heart condition and the stress of Kristina's situation, can no longer maintain his usual calm demeanor. In front of hospital staff, patients, and even Jason, Sonny unexpectedly loses control, almost admitting that he knows something about the accident before he can rein himself in. But it's too late. The look in Molly's eyes and Ava's smug smile show that they've caught something in his reaction, a sign that the Corinthos family is involved in the incident deeper than they've admitted. This is now causing one of the new adjustments to emerge in how Lucky must face the situation. No longer able to stand by and keep the secret as a mere observer, Lucky now has to actively participate in stopping things from getting worse. He has begun approaching Kristina privately, not to expose her but to urge her to confess, offering advice that taking responsibility willingly would be far better than being exposed by Ava or Molly. At the same time, he has also begun preparing for the possibility that the truth will come out without his control, setting up contingency plans to protect Elizabeth, Sonny, and even Kristina from the worst consequences. As Lucky stands at the crossroads, between the known secret and the mounting pressure to reveal it, he faces a moral dilemma with no clear answer. Each path comes with its own cost, and as Sonny's heart continues to weaken under the weight of pressure and secrets, Lucky must face the possibility that his silence may come at a much higher price than he is willing to pay. Kristina will break Sonny's heart in the most painful way possible. Not through careless words or actions, but by her continuous and firm denial of her guilt even when confronted with undeniable evidence. When pressure from Ava and Molly forces Sonny to face his daughter directly about the accident involving Rick, Kristina looks him in the eye, this man who has protected her entire life, and swears she is completely innocent. She sheds what appear to be sincere tears, calling the accusations a plot by Ava to tear their family apart, and even invokes the pain of losing her child as the reason she could never commit such a tragedy against another person. Sonny, who has always had a keen ability to detect lies, sees the truth in his daughter's eyes but still chooses to believe her, not because he's convinced, but because he cannot accept the reality that his daughter could lie to him so blatantly. It is this painful moment, when Sonny must confront the truth that Kristina not only could commit an act of violence but also look him in the eye and lie, that creates the deepest crack in his heart. The new story about one of the rising pressures on Sonny involves Lucky Spencer, who is increasingly unable to bear the weight of the secret he is keeping. Every time he meets Sonny, every time he sees him suffering to protect a child he knows deep down is guilty, Lucky feels the burden of responsibility growing heavier. This pressure reaches its peak when Lucky witnesses Sonny having to take heart medication after an especially tense confrontation with Ava at the Metro Court. Seeing the once strong man now struggling to breathe, Lucky makes an irreversible decision. He will reveal the truth, not to the police or to Ava, but to Sonny himself. This decision marks a profound shift in Lucky's character, from a passive observer to an active participant in this painful story. One of the emerging pressures is Alexis's gradual realization of her daughter's role in the accident, but rather than confronting Kristina directly, she quietly prepares legal action to protect her. Alexis, with all her legal knowledge and maternal instincts, begins gathering information on potential mitigating factors that could be used if Kristina is charged, from her mental state after losing the child to a history of past trauma. She even secretly contacts Kevin to discuss the possibility of using a mental health defense, all without Kristina knowing that she has seen through her daughter's lies. This silent preparation for a legal battle Alexis hopes will never come adds another layer of complexity to this heartbreaking story. This is exemplified in one of the newest explosive events when Lucky finally decides to reveal the truth to Sonny in a private meeting at the mafia boss's home. In an emotional conversation, Lucky details what he witnessed that night: Kristina with the weapon in her hand, the determined look in her eyes, and the hateful whisper about Ava needing to pay. Sonny, initially reacting with denial and even anger, gradually lets go as he realizes that Lucky has no reason to fabricate such a story. The moment Sonny finally accepts the truth, his shoulders slumping, his eyes vacant, and a deep sigh escaping, marks an explosive turning point not only in the storyline but also in Sonny Corinthos's character. This is no longer the powerful man who always had answers to every problem, but a heartbroken father forced to confront the truth that his daughter has become exactly what he has always tried to protect her from becoming: a violent, uncontrollable person. This is pushing Sonny further into a difficult decision, the hardest one of his life: how to deal with his daughter. No longer able to protect her by denying her guilt, but unable to let her face the justice system without support. Sonny begins to formulate a third plan, a plan he hopes can both make Kristina take responsibility and protect her from the worst consequences. He contacts Diane and Alexis, asking them to evaluate legal options together while also consulting Kevin on treatments that could help Kristina cope with her rage and violent impulses. He has even considered taking Kristina out of Port Charles, perhaps to a treatment facility in Europe where she could receive the necessary help while staying away from those who might seek revenge. The new obsession forming within Sonny is not how to escape this situation, but how to ensure this will be the last time he faces it. He is haunted by the question of whether the way he raised his children, protecting them with power, solving problems with strength, and sometimes violence, contributed to the Kristina he faces today. He wonders if his children truly understand the moral boundaries he has always tried to maintain, or if they simply see a man using violence to achieve his goals. This obsession is driving him toward a profound change, not only in how he handles the current situation but in his entire approach to leading the Corinthos family, a change that could reshape the future of Port Charles in ways no one, including Sonny, could predict. Sonny will be hospitalized in critical condition after a severe heart attack strikes him right in his office, shortly after his confrontation with Lucky over Kristina's crime. The fateful moment comes when Sonny, physically and mentally exhausted, looks at family photos on his desk and realizes that everything he has built, his business empire, his reputation, and even his family, could collapse because of the secrets and lies piling up. The heart attack strikes like a lightning bolt, knocking him to the ground before he can even call for help. Only thanks to Jason, who had a bad feeling and came to the office, is Sonny rushed to the hospital just in time, though his condition remains critical. One of the crazy new events unfolding at the hospital is the sight of the opposing factions forced to be in the same cramped space of the waiting room. Carly, Michael, and Jocelyn stand in one corner, worried but united. Alexis and Molly stand in another, both concerned for Sonny's health yet still angry about Rick's accident. Nina, with her complex relationship with Sonny, stands apart but still present. And Kristina, who bears some responsibility for her father's condition, trembles in the middle, unsure of where to stand or even if she has a right to be there. This chaos culminates when Ava arrives, declaring she has the right to be there because of Avery, and suddenly, all the tension and accusations that had been simmering erupt into an open argument that hospital staff have to intervene to break up. This proves one of the new pressures on the Corinthos family as they face the possibility of losing their pillar. With Sonny fighting for his life in surgery, questions about power and decision-making begin to surface. Who will make medical decisions if necessary? Who will run his legal and illegal businesses? And perhaps most importantly, who will protect the family if enemies decide to take advantage of this situation? Jason, who usually steps up in such situations, is pulled in many directions, protecting Carly and the children, maintaining order in the organization, and making sure Sonny's enemies don't realize how vulnerable the family is. This pressure is most evident in the way Jason constantly checks his phone, contacts members of the organization, and places guards around the hospital, all while maintaining a calm exterior to support the family's morale. This proves one of the new changes in the family dynamic as Sonny's children face the possibility of losing their father. Michael, who usually keeps his distance from his father's business, is becoming more involved, making decisions and overseeing operations he would have once avoided. Dante, as a police officer, struggles with the conflict between loyalty to his job and the desire to protect his family in a time of crisis. And Kristina, who still hasn't publicly admitted her guilt, faces the deepest change, from a rebellious daughter being protected to someone who may have to take direct responsibility for her father's condition. But the new story that's emerging is how Kristina's growing obsession with the consequences of her actions is taking hold. No longer able to hide behind excuses and denials, Kristina is facing the reality that her uncontrollable rage not only nearly killed Rick and Elizabeth but now may take the life of the man who has always protected her, her father. This obsession is most evident in the recurring dreams she has during sleepless nights at the hospital, images of Sonny bleeding, Rick injured, and always the image of her unborn child, whom she used to justify her rage. But unlike before when these images made her angry, now they only leave her with emptiness and deep regret. Kristina's and Lucky's guilt is growing, in different ways but ultimately leading to a similar conclusion. For Kristina, it's the realization that she has become what she always despised, a person who uses violence and causes pain to others to solve her problems. For Lucky, it's a growing sense of guilt that if he had spoken up earlier, Sonny might not have had to endure the pressure that led to the heart attack. Both are struggling with the question: how can they atone for mistakes that cannot be undone? This is leading to a surprising development. Kristina and Lucky will leave General Hospital together, not as enemies but as two companions on a journey to seek redemption. This decision doesn't come from a single moment but from a series of small interactions in the hospital corridors as they take turns watching over Sonny's room. Initially, their conversations are tense and brief, but gradually, they begin to share their fears, guilt, and desire to do the right thing. Lucky, with his own experience of overcoming addiction and mistakes, begins to understand that Kristina needs something Port Charles cannot provide: a fresh start, away from the judgmental eyes and expectations of the family. On the night when the doctor finally announces that Sonny has passed the most dangerous stage and has a chance to recover, Kristina and Lucky make their decision. It's not an escape from responsibility, but a purposeful plan. Kristina will voluntarily enter an anger management treatment facility, and then, when she is ready, she will return to face the legal consequences of her actions. Lucky, who has decided that he needs to escape the pressures and complex history of Port Charles to find himself again, will support her in this process before continuing his own journey. As dawn breaks over Port Charles, the two characters, one who caused the tragedy and one who has remained silent for too long, leave quietly, leaving behind a family beginning to heal and a Sonny Corinthos slowly waking up, unaware that his daughter has decided to confront her demons in her own way. They leave not with a promise to return better, but with the acknowledgement that the road ahead will be difficult. But it is the only road leading to true redemption.